Soldiers loyal to Libya's National Transitional Council advance on the town of Bani Walid, but come under heavy sniper and mortar fire. Bani Walid is one of the last bastions of support for ousted Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi.
The push for Bani Walid continues. Fighters loyal to Libya's interim government advance on the desert town, one of the last remaining bastions of support for ousted leader Muammar Gaddafi. But the offensive has met stiff resistance. Anti-Gaddafi fighters are coming under heavy mortar attack on the town's outskirts, and sniper fire has made it difficult for fighters to advance into the heart of Bani Walid, which is controlled by Libya's largest tribe. Anti-Gaddafi commanders, though, remain optimistic.
Regarding the position in Bani Walid, it's all under control. We have specific orders and tactics from the military council of Bani Walid. At the same time, we have orders to help some families inside the town to escape.
Gaddafi, who ran the country for 42 years before being driven from power last month, remains at large. Senior members of his former regime, including his son, Saif al-Islam, are believed to be in Bani Walid.
Palestinian police are training to prevent violence following the upcoming Palestinian statehood bid at the United Nations. The bid is expected to trigger protests from Palestinians.
Sunday saw Palestinian police holding a training exercise session. They were acting out possible violent situations that could take place ahead of an expected statehood bid at the UN this week. During the drill, policemen in riot gear confronted those who enacted the role of Palestinian protesters. The mock protesters were trying to reach areas controlled by Israel, and the police forces were acting out the evacuation and arrest of these protesters.
As you see that they reach a very high professional level, and you see that they are able to arrest demonstrators, violent demonstrators, without using the force, and just using their tactic and their skills. And you can see that they have a large panel of techniques that they can use in every situation. And I feel really confident.
Ismail Hanaisha is the head of the Palestinian Private Forces. He says that they train to prevent protesters from reaching areas controlled by the Israeli army during possible violent riots.
We are, as you will see in our training now, to protect the people from any danger.
Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas says he will be demanding full UN membership of a Palestinian state. He will seek a vote on the issue in the UN Security Council at the UN General Assembly next week. The United States firmly opposes Abbas's decision and is most likely to veto the vote. The U.S. argues that a Palestinian state can only be created through direct negotiations. President Abbas says he wants recognition as a state within the 1967 borders. This border encompasses the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, including East Jerusalem. These were areas that Israel captured in the 1967 Arab-Israeli War. Israel withdrew its settlers from Gaza in 2005, but still has control over its airspace and coastline.
The CIA, and of course not only the CIA, intelligence agencies worldwide, but the CIA has been involved in most dubious practices. These have involved torture, this extraordinary business of illegal rendition to secret camps around the world, secret detention centers around the world, all of which have been done with initially at least the active approval of government, and later by the tacit approval of government. And when one comes down to examine the drone strikes, and of course they have now been evident in Somalia, Yemen and Pakistan, with none of which countries the United States of America is engaged at war, these drone strikes have indubitably killed civilians. Members of the CIA are not combatants. They are not protected under international law. They cannot be protected under international law when performing tasks like this, like killing without the imprimatur, if you like, the seal of approval of combat. So they are performing illegal acts, and they have killed people illegally. This, for a country that is supposed to be leading civilization, is not just distasteful, it is abhorrent. And I am most surprised that the rest of the world hasn't got together and said there must be regulation of what appears to now be a rogue intelligence organization.
Hello everyone, welcome to Global Government News. Today is Monday, September 19th, 2011, and I'm Darko. This is part 2. GGNonline.com is my website. That's GGNonline.com. Here's a poll up here. How likely is it that standards of living will increase for the served population in the next decade? So far, everyone's saying, well, below 50%. You can put in your email address, follow me there, and I'm going to keep moving. I have a lot of news to get to. Libya's NTC failed to reach agreement on interim government. So it says here that the interim government was due to unveil this agreement on the same day, but I guess Gaddafi also said that he's given them to September 30th for the NTC, or the rebel terrorists, whatever you call them, to put down their weapons. And I think that's what it's going to come down to. It says here Africa splits on vote and seat new Libyan regime at UN. It says 12 African countries joined a losing bid to block Libya's new transitional administration from taking up the country's United Nations General Assembly seat. The bid failed last Friday, 17 votes to 114 votes. It says here 18 African countries voted to seat the new regime. It said those opposed, mostly from the southern and east Africa, were Angola, Democratic Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Kenya, Lesotho, Malawi, and plenty other countries. You go in there and check that out. I got to keep moving. French, UK mercenaries caught in Libya. Spokesmen for Gaddafi have claimed that the loyalists of the fallen regime have arrested 17 mercenaries, some British and French, in a stronghold of Walid. It says here they are technical experts, and they include consultative officers. Most of them are French. One of them is from an Asian country that has not been identified. 2 English people, and one from Qatari. It says here Ibrahim added. So EU's Barroso calls NATO campaign of killing Libyans in Libya a moral duty. Tony Blair visited Libya to lobby for J.P. Morgan. That's right. Left his office to lobby for a business for an American investment bank, J.P. Morgan. Daily Telegraph was reported. Says here NATO chopper shot down in Afghanistan. And then after that, we have a U.S.-led raid kills Afghan civilians. A number of civilians have been killed and attacked by U.S.-led forces in eastern Afghanistan. U.S. endorses Taliban office in Qatar in bid to bolster talks, and endorsed plans by the Taliban to open a political headquarters in Qatar just 3 days after insurgents carried out attacks in Kabul. And so there you go. So it's here Pakistan flood aid relief hurt by CIA's Osama bin Laden vaccination program. Flood reliefs in Pakistan have been jeopardized because the country's security services fear aid agencies are riddled with spies. Well, they are. They probably helped cause the floods, just like last year. They come with their vaccines. It says here Saudi-backed forces attack Bahrainis, and that's not new news. But it says here Lloyd's insurers sues Saudi Arabia for funding 9/11 attacks. So it says here the syndicate has begun a landmark legal case against Saudi Arabia, accusing the kingdom of indirectly funding Al-Qaeda and demanding the repayment of its money it paid out to victims of the 9/11 attacks. Here we go. Here, Israeli troops attack northeastern Gaza. Israeli troops have reportedly launched a new attack in northeastern Gaza as Palestinians prepare to take their bid for statehood to the United Nations. Moving on, Israel makes missile UAV to reach Iran. So it says here their Air Force plans to begin operating unmanned intelligence gathering aerial vehicle with the ability to launch missiles that could fly as far as Iran, reports. So it's here that it was the Jerusalem Post. That's who was the source. Israel terrorizes West Bank ahead of UN bid. So abducted at least 9 Palestinians in various parts of West Bank, and Tel Aviv sets up its campaign of terror ahead of the planned Palestinian UN statehood. Don't forget those attack dogs that are were training with Palestinian uniforms and that. Says here, an Israeli spy has confessed on Syrian state TV to involvement in the assassination of senior Hezbollah commander in 2008. So Israel's spy admits role in Mughniyeh, I can't pronounce that, but says here Turkey will freeze EU ties over Cyprus presidency. So Turkey's back in the news saying it will freeze relations with the EU if Cyprus is given the presidency in 2012, signaling a new low point for Turkey's relations. Moving on here, police detained 126 people over pro-Kurdish protests in Istanbul, and this is pretty interesting. It says 100 ethnic Kurds from Turkey protested the state's ongoing strikes against the outlawed Kurdish party, and they're of course called a terrorist group. So, and moving on here, it says here that Turkey's bid to lead the Arab world meets Israel head-on. It says here a strong advocate of secularism, Mr. Erdogan, is feted in Egypt and now is promoting the Palestinian cause. Next up, Yemeni forces kill 26 as protests escalate. They want Salih out. Says here U.S. drones kill 17 al-Shabaab fighters, and so that's, of course, the CIA. Somalia is grateful for Iran aid convoys. So Somali Minister for Women and Family Affairs says the people of our country are grateful for humanitarian aid sent by the Iranian government. And, of course, Al-Shabaab says, Al-Shabaab, I just learned, they actually took over for a dictator supported by the communists, Russia and the United States. And then Russia didn't want to back him anymore. He was a dictator for almost 30 years. And then the West just... The U.S. just took the reins, and they supported this guy for a long time, and he had his own little clans. But then these al-Shabaab fighters came in and basically ousted him because there was a lot of support against him. But basically, that's what you have now, and they basically called or ordered the UN not to bring in aid while other countries were bringing aid, including Iran and Venezuela and that. So they just don't want the UN's aid, and that's why it's made into a big political melee. Iran arrests 6 BBC Persian filmmakers. Iranian authorities have arrested a group of filmmakers and accused them of working for the BBC Persian service, which is banned in the country. It says here, from Arab Spring to Greek Autumn to European Winter. And I was thinking about this, how they're trying to shove this bailout down their throat and all that. And I'm just thinking, it's like, why can't they just get out of the Eurozone? Why can't they just dump the euro in that? And it's just like, no, they'd rather see the Greeks just disappear off the map. Greece can just basically just cease to exist before these assholes figure out that it's not going to work, right? But no, they're going to put these people's lives basically on the line. So it says here, a man pours flammable liquid on his body to set himself on fire outside a bank branch in northern Greece. It says here, the 55-year-old man entered the bank and asked for renegotiation of his overdue loan payments on his home and business, according to the police, which he could not pay but refused by the bank. So you just see they care so much that they're going to have countries that were just going to completely fail. And maybe that's what they want, the United States of Europe. So that is the whole point. I already reported on that. It says here, U.S. probes legality of anti-terror strikes. The top U.S. anti-terror advisor Friday hinted at the debate inside the White House over legal constraints on U.S. operations striking al-Qaeda suspects in places like Yemen and Somalia. This is very important. This is very important because I just saw a propaganda piece on Nightline or whatever it was, 60 Minutes, and they had this Marine that got this Medal of Honor. And then I didn't know too much about the story, and then when I looked into it, what was it about? It was about the captain of the Army not calling for the airstrikes because he was concerned about civilian casualties, and that was 2 years prior. And the whole point of putting this Marine out there that was still alive was to basically promote this so that they can more easily strike places like Somalia and Yemen without worrying about casualties, right? When the fact is, they shouldn't even fucking be there in the first place. I mean, the Marine's a warrior, and I salute him as a former Marine myself, but still, dude, come on. Terror threat very worrying in Africa, U.S. general says, talking about extremists. And it says here, 2 arrests in Finland are linked to terrorism, so Finland gets its first arrest of terrorists. New York security on alert for UN assembly. That's right, police state is out in full force. Wait for my computer. Monthly terror drills now required by law for students, including kindergarten and first graders. So they're going to be setting off bombs and releasing fake shooters in schools and scare the hell out of kids and traumatize them. This is GGN, and I'm Darko. Thank you.